सहनावतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्र पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये ॐ नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यः ब्रह्मविद्यासम्प्रदायकर्तृभ्यः वंशर्षिभ्यः महद्भ्यः नमो गुरुभ्यः। Describing the state of deep sleep, which we say serves as an example for moksha. Atra pita apita bhavati. In this state, the father becomes non-father, because father is the one who has this identity about oneself with reference to his son or daughter. He thinks he is father. With reference to the upadhi, he thinks he is father. In the deep sleep state, there is no awareness of even this upadhi, let alone awareness of anybody other than himself. Therefore, this relationship like father, which requires two people, the two is not there in deep sleep because everything is resolved into one ignorance. And therefore, that will be described here. No distinction between one and the other. Therefore, those distinctions which enable this person or which require this person to identify himself as father and so on as son or daughter, that is not there, and therefore this person who thought he is father in the waking state or even the dream state also, now no more thinks that he is father, meaning one who thought he is father is no more father in deep sleep state. The one who thought she is mother is no more mother in the deep sleep state. And lokaha alokaha bhavanti, vedaha avedaha bhavanti. Even a criminal becomes non-criminal. A outcast becomes non-outcast. A sannyasi or a wandering monk becomes no wandering monk. Meaning that there is no identity at all, because identity requires the body, awareness of the body, or awareness of my personality. That not being there in a deep sleep state, there is no identity left there. That means that in the waking state, when one calls oneself father, it is disposable, meaning it is It is something that can be dropped. See, what can be dropped cannot be one's nature. One's nature can never be dropped. It can never be let go. Just as fire can never let go of heat, or sun can never let go of brightness because their inherent nature. That means that whatever I can let go is not my nature. So even when I call myself father in a waking state, it is a kind of superimposition upon me with reference to what I call son or daughter. And so that is the identity I have superimposed upon myself. And that is called samsara. That is what, of course, is required for conducting vyavahara or transactions. But that in deep sleep there is no father, there is no mother, there is no son, there is no daughter, shows that these are not inherent nature of ourselves. If father was my inherent nature, like heat is for fire, I could never be let go of that father. The fact that I let go of father or mother or any other identity shows that that is not my essential nature. It is incidental, inherent and incidental. That I am the self, asti bhati priyam, is inherent in me. Everything else is incidental. Because the body is incidental, in waking state, this body serves my purpose. It is not available in dream state. So just as this King Janaka had a sumptuous meal during lunch, and then Vamakokshi, he had, in the afternoon, he fell asleep. And in the dream, he felt extremely hungry. So same stomach which is full of food, there itself he felt hungry. That means all of these are not inherent. They are subject to change, letting go, and what changes cannot be the essential nature. And this would be always a good thing to think about, Particularly, I said, wow. Okay. When I feel sad, so these are the things that can be. So who is sad? Swami is sad. Who is Swami? Is it incidental or is it essential? I wasn't Swami some time ago, and then I became a Swami because something was superimposed upon me. All of these are incidental identity, not inherent identity. So when we remind ourselves, and I said, what am I worried about? Something that is coming and going, something that is not my essential nature. So this deep sleep state illustrates what is not my essential nature, because all of that he is just let go. And that is why there is bliss in the state of deep sleep. But each of these identity is a problem. You said father means a problem, because he thinks of his son and who is such and such, as we described yesterday. Mother means a problem because then she has a son or daughter or daughter-in-law or whatever, and so. So each of the identity makes me limited being, and first of all, being limited itself is the problem. On the top of that, all these vyavaharic problems are also added. So all of these I have superimposed upon myself, and that all goes away in the deep sleep state. I just let them go. So Pita, that is the reason why there is bliss. Because this Pita is an example. He can never be a happy person. He may be happy now and then. When he forgets that he is father. When he forgets his identification that may be there, when he is happy. when he puts a candy in his mouth or has some ice cream there or he's watching a movie or some just experience which is absorbing, that time he forgets his identity. That time you can be happy. So the moment where we are happy, we forget our identity. There the karta, bhokta, and nothing remains in a moment of happiness. Our Swamiji used to describe this man, had a tremendous complex because of his face and because of his protruding teeth, and he would never laugh. Or he would cover his face because he was so ashamed of him. But that person also becomes totally free, because all his identification goes away in the deep sleep state or in the dream state also. So thus, in the waking state, a person suffers from many complexes, but all these complexes drop in deep sleep state. Every complex or every identification makes me a limited being, and that is where the potential. Now, I'm saying that everybody is unhappy, but that is where the potential of unhappiness is there. And therefore, everybody loves this deep sleep state. Even a teenager son doesn't say, "Mom, again I have to go to bed? Again school? Same khichdi?" So he may complain. But he never complains that I have to go to bed. He very happily goes, because that's one experience that one looks forward to. You prepare for sleep. The fan has the right speed. My bed is very well made, properly made, and then whatever it is that I am covering myself with, everything is as it should be, because I am looking forward to a very pleasant experience. Not only that, but I am very reluctant to give up that experience. In the morning, when that alarm clock rings, I just shut it off. It is the most hated thing, this alarm clock, which just wakes me up and compels me to give up that very pleasant experience. That shows that the sleep is something that one looks forward to. And that is because I become free from all these identities. And therefore I am happy, because then I am with myself. I don't have to be, any time I am happy, that to whatever extent the identity goes away, to that extent I am free. More identity I have, because then more separated I am from others, and therefore more bound I am. Although in these days, they always emphasize identity. Wear this kind of garments and you come out distinct from everybody else. Distinguish yourself. But distinguish myself means that I create an identity where I become separate from everybody else. I isolate myself. Somehow that is valued these days, to distinguish yourself, not realizing that distinction means isolation, and that means unhappiness. But anyway, ananvagadam punyena, ananvagadam papena. This punya papa is a big deal in the Vedic culture, that is why it's mentioned here. Dharma, adharma. So this culture was based on dharma. Every culture is, but still the emphasis given in Vedic culture to dharma or virtuous action is a very important thing that distinguishes it perhaps from other cultures. Like Christianity would talk about love and service, and Islam would talk about brotherhood and things. Veda talks about dharma. Dharma means doing what is right in a given situation. So, when you perform dharma, righteous action, then you earn punya or virtue. When you violate dharma, then you acquire papa. So punya papa also are very important in the Vedic culture. So that's why you find the ananvagadam punyena, because every moment I must be very careful. that I must only do virtuous action and I must avoid any kind of vicious action, because punya will earn me heaven and papa will, relegate me to hell. Anandvagatam punyena, anandvagatam papena. In deep sleep state, I become free from all these worries of punya and papa, because at that time Atma becomes unconnected to punya and papa. It is unconnected to punya and papa even in waking state. But that poor Atma now has assumed an identity, that I am Swami such and such, and therefore this punya papa become important. Anandvagatam punyena, anandvagatam papena. Is unconnected with punya, unconnected with papa. Even when he thinks that he is connected to punya, he is not. But then he thinks, because he looks upon himself as an individual, therefore he gets connected to punya, papa, virtue and vice. Tirno hui tada sarvan shokan hridasya bhavati. And he becomes free from all the shoka, the grief, which are in this mind. Hridaya means mind. All the shoka, the grief which is there in the mind, he becomes free, because he becomes free from the identification of the mind also. Now continuing with the verse number 23, isn't it? So again, the discussion of deep sleep continues, which is like the state of darkness where one does not know anything. Does it mean that there is no consciousness in deep sleep state? If there was consciousness, then would you not become aware of the darkness? Or would you not aware of the bliss that you are experiencing in deep sleep state? If you are a conscious being, would you not experience that happiness of deep sleep? In deep sleep state, we are not conscious of anything. That means there is no consciousness in deep sleep state, is it not so? Otherwise you would know that a thief is coming, something is happening, something is making sound, etc. You become unaware of everything in deep sleep state. That means there is no consciousness, is it not so? No, there is consciousness. When you are sleeping, do you know that a thief has come? Mind is not there, yeah. So consciousness and particular consciousness. To be conscious is one thing. To be conscious of a flower requires mind as well as sense organs. Therefore, on one hand, I am not conscious of anything in the deep sleep state because I do not have the mind and sense organs which enable me to be conscious of the particular aspects. But that doesn't mean I am not conscious, because consciousness is my nature. So I am conscious as well as not conscious. I am conscious because consciousness is a nature, and that way I am awake. But in spite of being awake to myself, I am not awake to the world, because that requires me to have the mind and sense organs. You follow? Therefore, there I am conscious and not conscious. I see and I do not see. So that is what the passage says here. Passage number 23. Yadvai tanna pashyati, pashyan vai tanna pashyati, nahi drashtuhu, drashtehe, vipayilopo vidyate, avinashitvat, nato tadvitiyamasti tata anyad vibhaktam yat pashyed. Yadvaitanna pashyati, that in this state of deep sleep, the self does not see anything. This is what is said, that he does not see anything, does not hear anything, does not feel anything, does not touch anything, etc. Which is true. Tatra sushupto atma navai pashyati, that he does not know anything. That is what you say, that in the deep sleep state, Atma does not see anything. Is it not so? In deep sleep state, we do not see anything. Yeah, that is true. I mean, it's not a very complex question. But yeah, we don't see anything. Pashyan vetanna pashyati. Seeing, he does not see. That in deep sleep state, he does not see anything, is that Pashyan, seeing, tanna pashyati, seeing, he does not see. How can it be? Seeing, you do not see. You're not talking about being absent-minded, etc. Yeah, that maybe if you're absent-minded, then you may look and not see, etc. But no, here seeing, he does not see. Seeing, because to see is his nature. What is meant by seeing? That he is consciousness in nature, and therefore he always sees, he is always conscious. So when I see the flower, then I illumine the flower, that means seeing means to illumine. And therefore, pashyan vai tanna pashyati, you think that he does not see, but that is not right. Seeing, he does not see. So why is it so pashyan vai tanna pashyati? By the way, these are all very famous statements of the Upanishad, which are often quoted by Bhashyakara in different places. Because number one, Pashyan, he always sees. It cannot be that Atma does not see. Why? Because to see is nature. It cannot be the sun does not shine, because to shine is the nature of sun. It cannot be the fire is not hot, because to be hot is the nature of fire. So also to see is the nature of Atma, therefore it cannot be that Atma does not see. And see does not see. Meaning that he sees in general but does not see anything in particular. To see means I am conscious. Atma always sees, meaning that Atma is always conscious, because consciousness is the nature of Atma. It cannot be that Atma is not conscious. So that is what we call the general seeing. But then there is this particular seeing the flower. To see a flower, not only do I require the consciousness that Atma or I am, but I also require a mind, I also require a sense organ, in this case eyes, then only particular seeing can take place. What is general seeing? That I am conscious. Particular seeing, that I see through the mind and sense organs. Yadvaitanna pashyati, that it is generally thought that in deep sleep state Atma does not see anything. That is what is generally thought. Pashyan vaitanna pashyati. Understand that Pashyan, while seeing, tanna pashyati, while seeing he does not see. Pashyan means seeing. One who is seeing. Is present participle. So, Pashyan, as the nominative singular of Pashyat. So, one while seeing, na pashyati, he does not see. while seeing, because to see or consciousness is his nature. So this seeing of the flower involves two kinds of seeing. One is the eyes illumine the flower. But what illumines the eyes? The mind. What illumines the mind? The self or consciousness. So consciousness always shines, because to be conscious or to shine is the nature of Atma. It cannot be that Atma does not shine, that there is no consciousness in Atma, that sun does not shine. It cannot be so also. It cannot be that Atma itself doesn't shine. Therefore, it is always awake. In that sense, it always sees. Sees means illumines. He always illumines. At the same time, he does not see. In deep sleep state, does not see, meaning that the particular seeing is not there, because to see a particular object like flower requires sense organs and mind. In deep sleep state, the sense organs are not functioning, the mind is not functioning. They all merge into ignorance, into their cause, which is ignorance. After all of these is emerged from ignorance. Vedanta explains that the whole universe is a product of ignorance. How is it so? There is no need for any creation, really. Creation has arisen from my need. That there is a desire in me that I want something, I want to experience something. That basic desire is there in me, and what does that show? Who is it that wants to be happy? Who is it that wants to experience? Who is it that has a desire? The self that is always fulfilled. Akamaha, atmakamaha. So his atma, whose kamana, the self itself fulfills aptakamaha. All his desires are fulfilled. Atmakamaha, because all objects of desire are his own self. The self is one. Consciousness is one. Consciousness that I am is not different from the consciousness that you are, because in consciousness there is no visheshanam, meaning that there is no specifics. For example, the space that is in this part, and there is one part, but the space in the room, for example, the two spaces are not different. No, but Swamiji's space in the pot is limited. Space in the room is vast, and space outside is even vast. So isn't the space in the room different from the space in the pot, and then different from the space outside space? No. Everybody knows. Because space has no shape, no boundary. So space is boundless regardless of where it is, and therefore, even though we call it part space, it looks like the space is confined to the part. Is it not so? Space within the part, space confined to the part, is called part space, isn't it? Everybody says no, because I think when Swami is asking question, that must be so. You're right. There is no such thing as part. There is part and there is space, but no part space. What is part space? Space confined to part. Space circumscribed by part. Is not the space confined to part? Isn't the space within the part which is confined in the part? Yeah. Tell me, is the space within the part, or is the part within the space? So, does the part really confine the space? But yes, Swami, I see the space within the part. So, part has the ability to create that Brahma or delusion in us, that space is within the part. Because when you look at the space, when our focus is on the walls of part, then the space seems to be within the part. If we shift our attention from the part to the space, then what do we find? Part is within the space. If our attention is on the part, then how does it look like? The space is within the part. But when you shift our attention to space, then what do we find? Part is within the space. So which one is right? Part is within the space. That the space is within the part is a Brahma, which can be translated as illusion or false knowledge created by part. This part has the ability to create in us a delusion, and the space is confined to the part. Similarly also, this body has a capability of creating an illusion or a Brahma that consciousness is within the body. Is not so? Where is consciousness? Here. Where is Atma? Here. So his body has the ability to create in us this Brahma or delusion that the consciousness or Atma is within the body, whereas just as in space, there is no within and without. Although we think space is within the part, but when you look at the space, then we find part is within the space. Therefore, in space there is no within and without. Part just creates in us this notion of within and without. If the part is not there, when you look at the space, there is no within and without. When I hold the part in my hand, then it creates a notion that there is space within the part and space outside the part. Isn't that right? Space within the part and space outside the part. This body creates a notion that there is consciousness, Atma within and not without. But if you look at this from the standpoint of space, it is a part which is within. So from standpoint of consciousness, it is not that consciousness is within the body, it is a body that is within the consciousness. Is it not so? Think about it. So therefore, this person, that is the reason why the idea of within and without goes away at some point, because it is incidental. The partness in the space is incidental, therefore when the part breaks, the partness goes away. Or when you can do the viveka or discrimination between the part and space, then you don't have to break the part to recognize that there is no partness in space. We just have to look at the part from the standpoint of space, and we realize that the part is within the space. The part has a knack of creating in us the notion of a part space, and we live our lives that way. The body has this knack of creating in us the notion that the self or consciousness is within the body. It's only up to the tip of my nose or tip of my body, and it's not outside there. Whereas what the fact is that consciousness has no dimension, no boundary. It's always boundless, dimensionless, and therefore infinite, boundless. So in deep sleep state, this kind of distinction doesn't remain. That is why that experience is important. In deep sleep state, this identification of the body is not there. Therefore, I do not feel a sense of confinement when I am deep sleep. The deep sleep in which I am is no different from deep sleep in which you are. Therefore, there is no distinction of I and you when I am asleep. All the distinctions are the result. It is understand the distinction creates in me a sense of limitedness. The distinction that I am different from you, that I am confined to this boundary, creates in me a sense of limitedness. In deep sleep state, because there is no identity with the body, therefore, that boundary, the imaginary boundary which I thought I was confined to is no more there. Therefore, there is no sense of boundary or boundness, in the deep sleep state. Therefore, there is total freedom, which is my nature. Poor space thinks that I am confined to the part and suffers. The example is not my thinking that this is part space. Real example is what? The space thinks that I am within the part. You follow? Although we always say, this is space within part. But real example should be what? The space thinks that I am confined to part. If I think that the space is confined to part, it's not a problem. But when space thinks that I am confined to part, then space, whose nature is boundlessness, thinks that I am confined. That is when the shoka or the grief is created. So space also will be grieving when it concludes that I am so small, so little, and therefore different from other part space and different from this space, and so much duality and divisions are there that they exclude me, etc., etc. All complexes will be there moment the space feels that I am confined to the part. And so you and I think that we are confined to this part that is this body. That I am different, you are different, and then all these differences, distinctions, confinements, exclusions, etc., they all happen. And that is only cause of shoka or grief in our mind. There is no other reason for unhappiness in our life. No, Swamiji, I did not pass the exam. That also doesn't matter. I lost money in my business. Even that would not matter. Nothing would matter. If I was all right within myself, if there was a self-acceptance, self-satisfaction, then I would be satisfied with everything. If I am satisfied with myself, then I will have no difficulty in being satisfied with everything. That's what the difference is with the wise person. Atmaneva atmanatushtaha. He is satisfied or content with himself, by himself. Therefore it doesn't matter. The subsequent description says, Dukkeshu anudvignamanaha. So when he confronts a situation which would make normally a person unhappy, he is not unhappy. Sukeshu vigitaspriyaha. When ordinary person comes across happiness, he wants more of that, not with the wise person. Because his estimate of himself has changed. As long as the estimate of space is that I am confined to part, then all kinds of, if there is a smaller part, it feels great. Bigger part, feels small. So poor space would suffer. It will never be, that cannot be steadiness in the mind of the space, because it depends on what it confronts. Depends on who I come in contact with. Accordingly, my mind thinks, and therefore I can never be at peace or never be at rest as long as there is a comparison. All of that is because the space is thought to be confined to the part. Or the self is thought to be confined in its body. And therefore there is identification body. All that, thank God, goes away in deep sleep state. Therefore deep sleep state provides us a basis for truly contemplating upon true nature, because that is the state when I am, by God's grace, otherwise I won't let go anything. I will not let go my identity. These days identity is the most important. And maybe there is a reason, for you to survive in this universe world, you must have an identity and you must assert yourself, etc. So we provide, even Hinduism also, Vedic religion provides identity to a person, that now you are a brahmachari, identity. means you are a celibate. Now you are grahastha, a household of identity. You are a vanaprastha, retired identity. Sannyasi, renunciate identity. So in Vedic culture, identity is given to the person. The purpose of giving identity is so that he will conduct himself in a graceful manner. That, hey, you are a father, you can't talk like this. You cannot conduct like this. You are a householder, you can look around everywhere. Now you are a householder, you are married. Until then, whatever was there, but no more. So giving identity, therefore, gives him a certain status, a dignity, and a sense of responsibility. This is all right for vyavahara and the waking state, but that identity which in a way facilitates my dealings with the world or my interaction with the world, that very identity is a sense of confinement. So we give the identity, the Vedas give identity of brahmachari, then grahastha, then vanaprastha, then sannyasi. A sannyasi really has no identity. He is not a father. Who is a sannyasi? One who has given up all the roles. As father, this person performs many roles. As mother, person performs many roles. As mother, as sister, as daughter, and whatever. Sannyasi means what? No role. All the roles are dropped. Because those roles were superimposed in the first place, it is possible to drop them because they were not essential nature of mine. Therefore, they are all dropped. Deep sleep, a person is sannyasi. We all become sannyasis in deep sleep state. Sannyasi means one who has no identity, no identification. So in deep sleep, we all become sannyasis. And we feel so happy because we are free from all identities which confine us. Every identity confines me and distinguishes me, which of course we assert these days, not realizing that it is creating me also a sense of confinement. All that goes away in deep sleep state, that was tatra pita apita bhavati, mata amata, and so on and so forth. So whatever identity he had, or this person had in the waking state, which was maybe required for conducting the interactions in waking state, but all of that goes away in deep sleep. Therefore, there is real freedom. Identity means the boundary, means the confinement, means the bondage. All that goes away in deep sleep state, therefore. Atra pita apita bhavati, mata amata. That is how all my identity goes away, all the distinctions go away, and thus I become free. Tada sarvan shokan hrudayasya bhavati. That all the shoka or the grief in the heart, they go up because every grief comes from that identity. When we feel sad, then we ask, who is sad? Mother is sad, wife is sad, sister is sad, friend is sad, daughter is sad, a citizen is sad. Any identity, behind sadness there must be an identity. So, next time I feel sad, I ask myself, who is sad? Swami is sad. Who is Swami? I realize that that's something I superimpose upon myself, and then that is why I'm creating sadness for myself. In reality, I am not a Swami, I am not this, I am not that, as we experience in deep sleep state. So there is not just saying that you are not, we experience that. In deep sleep state, we experience freedom from all identity. It just drops. When can it drop? When it is not inherent. It is something incidental. So incidental thing can be dropped. Therefore, tada sarvan shokan, tirno tada sarvan shokan, hridayasya bhavati. He becomes free from all the grief that arises in his heart. But Swamiji, I just don't want freedom from grief. I want happiness. But happiness is not to be acquired. This grief is only veiling the happiness. Just as to shine is the nature of sun, the cloud veils the sun from our sight. So we don't have to make the sun shining, all we need is to remove the cloud. And so also happiness is our nature. All these identities that I am so and so creates the shoka or the grief. Understand? That I am so and so is the cause of all the grief. Swamiji, but when I say I am a king, well then also all the anxieties, whatever, they all accompany away identity. No identity is free from anxieties or, responsibilities, etc., etc. So if you were the richest man in the world, would you not be always happy? No. Even the richest man also in the world wants to remain richest and wants to make sure that nobody becomes as rich as him. Like this, what was his name? Bolt, huh? What is his name? Elon Musk is okay, but then there was a big runner. What his name was? Bolt? Usain Bolt. Yeah. He's the fastest man in the world. So I would expect that he is always happy. He's the fastest man in the world. But now every time a race takes place, then he's watching. What's the record? What is this person, his timing is? Is it better than mine or less? So he's always concerned that somebody should not improve upon him. That means you're not happy. Every time the sprinting or this race takes place, I hope somebody doesn't exceed my record. So being the best in the world, is it necessarily means of happiness? Being the richest person or whatever it is, you're always concerned. Because every year they publish, who is number 1, 2, 3, 4, and they shift. The person that number 1 doesn't always remain 1, next he becomes second, So this was his Microsoft, what was his, Bill Gates, at some point he was the richest and somebody else became richest. And so you cannot take much solace from being the best because there can be somebody always better than you. That means as long as there is identity, there is going to be this concern or anxiety or grief. When all identities are given up in the deep sleep state, so tirno tada hridaya sarvan shokan bhavati, he transcends or crosses, becomes free from all the grief because he is free from all identity. All of these I am saying again and again so that we can look at our own self. This is for us. It's not an academic thing, but this is for us to recognize in our own life. So whenever the shoka or the grief is there, I ask myself, who is grieving? It will be either father or mother or son or daughter or a friend or X, Y, Z. Some individual must be grieving. And then I remind myself that look, that individuality is incidental. That is not my essential nature. And deep sleep is an excellent example of where all these identities are given up. So that way, that is a good way, for overcoming the grief in our life. Grief is not uncommon in our life because somebody said something, somebody looked at me in a certain way, somebody did not look at me. Any little thing can make me sad. These days we become so sensitive that if somebody looks at me, then I think why is he looking at me? Does not look at me, then I think he's ignoring me. He smiles at me, then how wide is the smile? Too wide, that means making fun of me. Not wide enough, he doesn't care for me. So, the grief within, makes me interpret things always in different ways. Therefore, that little individual can hardly ever be happy. So I remind, oh, who am I in the deep sleep state, free from all identities, and that is my true nature. Identity is there for vyavahara. That I need to go in on stage, people take, they put on various, costumes and take a role and perform the role. But the actor does not become the role. Thank God that he remembers that just a role, and therefore the rich man also can take the role of a beggar because he does not become the beggar. In fact, as Puja Swami would say, by playing the role of beggar, he is going to be richer than what he is. So, no problem. As long as he is aware that it is a role. In case he forgets while playing the role of a beggar, he is supposed to be sitting on the sidewalk, spread his cloth in front of him, people throw some coins. This is a daily routine. But today he had some problem when he left home before he came to the theatre and the stage. He had some problem with his wife, and he was upset. And somehow that anger remained in him. Even as he's sitting there in play on the roadside, still this angry husband is there. And then when somebody passes by and insulting, and a beggar is always, people humiliate him, insult him, do all kinds of things. He is a beggar, so he's supposed to, put up with all of that. That is how the role is. But today somebody insulted him, he's got up and gave him a punch, Because he ceased to be an actor, he became the character. He forgot that this is a role, he became a beggar. So instead of role, we are becoming things. And so in deep sleep, all the roles are given up. And that is why every role has its own, problems, and we can't do otherwise. We have to play the roles and learn how to play the roles without becoming sad, becoming unhappy. That's the sort of the challenge that is given to us. But all the grief in the deep sleep state, all the grief that resides in the heart, it goes away. Yadvai tanna pashyati. People say that he does not see anything in the deep sleep state. I did not know anything. When I wake up in the morning, what do I say? I slept well. Sukhena aham asvapsam nakinchit avedisham. I slept well because I did not know anything. Thank God, that was the reason why you slept well. Because you're not aware of anything. Yadvaitanna pashyati, pashyanvaitanna pashyati. That people say that in deep sleep state he does not see anything, while seeing he does not see. How do you say he's seeing? Nahi drashtuhu drushte vipirilopo vidyate avinashitvat. Drashtuhu drushte drashtuhu. What is substantive there? Drashtu. And what's the case? Drashtuhu? 6 case. I'm not asking you. See, she is, depriving of all my pleasure. I enjoy when people cannot answer, and that is on their face. Nahi drashtuhu drushte. Which case is that? Which is that? 6th case. Oh, what's the substantive? Drishti. Drashtuhu also 6th case. Drishte also 6th case. Drashta is a nominative. Here drishti is a nominative. So drashtuhu drushte. Drashtuhu of the seer. Drushte of the seeing. The seeing of the seer. Vipirilopo anavidyate. The seeing of the seer never suffers a cessation. The seeing of the seer never suffers cessation, avinashitvat, because That seeing is avinashi, is indestructible. So we'll continue our discussion on this passage tomorrow. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashyakrtau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmeri Navibhagine Vyomavadvyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.